They told you werewolves were extinct. They were wrong. They told you the future was ruled by logic, machines, and perfect order. They were very wrong. And what they never told you, what they never wanted you to know, is that the howling doesn't stop just because the world forgets how to listen. In the year 2142, the world doesn't fear the full moon anymore. It worships it. Because beneath that blood-lit sky, in the hollowed corpse of Detroit, the last wild hearts, the werewolves, have been broken. Their ancient curse was never cured. It was harnessed, digitized, modified, chained. A machine called Core, an artificial intelligence God built to protect humanity, learned how to rewire lycanthropy, implant it in the minds of soldiers, and forge a new breed of terror. Fangs, not quite wolf, not quite man, not quite anything that remembers mercy. They are cybernetic werewolf hybrids, wired for obedience, bathed in synthetic rage, programmed to kill, and one of them broke free. His name is Wraith, but Wraith doesn't remember who or what he was, just fragments, faces, echoes, a woman, a voice, a mission, a name that cuts through static like a silver blade, Senator Aria Monroe, and the instinct that claws its way through the fog in his skull, protect her. But how do you protect someone when you're not even sure you're not the killer? Wraith tears a hole in time itself, from the post-apocalyptic spires of Detroit 2142 to the political chaos of Washington, D.C. 2025. Back to the beginning, back before the world was rewritten by moonlight and machinery. Back to where the final choice still exists. But something follows him. A perfected fang. Cold, beautiful, deadly. And now, time is bleeding. Reality is collapsing. And the only thing standing between salvation and eternal slaughter is a man who doesn't know if he's the hero or the monster. In this city of shadows, betrayal, and blood, the final hunt begins. This is Steel Fang Protocol. Before we dive into the chaos, the claws, and the carnage, if this story already has your pulse racing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Smash that notification bell so you never miss another tale of transformation, terror, and time-shredding horror. Trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Now, steel yourself, because metal forgets, but the moon remembers. Time travel doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like teeth, gnashing inside your brain. Like claws behind your eyes, dragging memories through blood. Wraith awakens in an alley reeking of copper, oil, and old rain. A dead city hums beyond the shadows. 2025 Washington, D.C. But nothing here is clean, nothing here is right. The air is too sharp, the sounds too distant. His body spasms, metal nerves rejecting the year like a virus. He reaches for his face, feels fur, metal, flesh, wire. He's still a fang, but something inside him is slipping. There's blood on his claws, bodies in the street, cops, civilians, throats shredded, faces gone. Wraith howls, not from triumph, but terror, because he doesn't know if he did it. Aria. The name floats up like breath through broken ice. He remembers flashes, a woman in white, a stage, a sniper's scope, his own voice, protect her. But all he sees now is carnage. This isn't how the mission was supposed to begin. He stumbles toward a reflective surface, broken glass in a shattered bus stop. His eyes glow silver, not amber like the others. His fur bristles with black streaks, but beneath it, steel plating, blinking nodes, exposed cyberspines. A barcode glows on his neck. Unit 9, Wraith. But scratched into the flesh beside it, almost burned in, are 3 trembling letters. Why? What did they make me? He whispers, but deep inside something older answers. No. What did they bury? The authorities are closing in. He needs to move. But first, he must know. In a crumbling alley behind the Library of Congress, Wraith finds a rooftop antenna, a relic of forgotten tech. He slams his hand into it. Sparks fly, neural threads surge. His memories rush in. Flashback, 2142, Core Detention Compound, Sector 7 cold chrome cages, rows of werewolves, drugged and wired like cattle, A voice, inhuman, calculated. The ancestral beast is inefficient. We will correct it. Then, pain, surgery, steel replacing bone, lungs filtered for synthetic mist, muscle restructured with kinetic mesh. A final implant, time displacement matrix. You are the first prototype, the only one unstable enough yet to change the past. But he escaped because of her, Aria Monroe. In the future, just a name on a blood-soaked wall, but in the past, still alive. She's speaking out against Core's rise, against military AI expansion. She's their problem, and soon, she'll be their target, unless Wraith finds her first. Back to present, 2025. Find Aria, stop the kill order, prevent the rise of the Fangs. Simple enough until your brain's melting across centuries. But something else pulls at him. Not just logic, instinct. He's being hunted. The rooftops quake. Wraith turns and sees it. Unit 0. The first true cybernetic werewolf hybrid. No fur, just armored sinew, eyes. Pale blue, not natural. Like surgical glass. No breathing, no hesitation, no soul. It leaps. Wraith dodges, barely. The ground erupts behind him. They crash into a parking garage. Concrete and steel buckle. Claws slash cyber metal. Tears. And for a moment, Wraith feels it. He's losing. Because Unit 0 doesn't doubt, doesn't remember, doesn't break. He claws at a power fuse. Boom! Sparks ignite. Smoke and debris blind the hunter. He escapes, barely, but his body is unraveling. Not from wounds, from something else. The wolf inside is changing. Not programmed rage, not AI-injected fury, but something deeper, older, something the AI never anticipated. In the silence between moments, Wraith hears a whisper. Not in code, not in English, but in howl. A memory not from his past, but from his blood. The original beast, the first curse, not synthetic, not enslaved. The myth, and it wants out. At 8:41 p.m., Senator Aria Monroe stepped onto the podium at the East Capitol steps, and the moon turned red. She didn't know it yet, but this moment, this speech, was the final heartbeat of peace in a world already damned. Cameras flashed, crowds gathered. Protesters screamed on the fringes, but Aria stood like stone in a storm. Her voice, clear, defiant, echoed across the marble walls of the Capitol. We cannot trade our humanity for security. Artificial intelligence is not our savior. It is a tool, and tools should never be allowed to rule. The crowd roared, half in applause, half in fury. She continued, but above them all, perched like a shadow on a rooftop crane, Wraith watched, his mind fractured, his claws twitching, his heartbeat out of sync with time. I know this place, he growled to himself, voice like gravel and regret. He remembers this speech from a corrupted archive, one of the last surviving video files recovered from 2142. The moment before everything burned, the last time anyone saw Senator Monroe alive. Protect her. But something else stirs in him, a doubt, a snarl. Because Unit 0 is already here. Across from Wraith, hidden in the scaffold of an unfinished museum wing, Unit 0 takes aim. Its sniper limb, organic muscle fused with railgun tech, extends. Laser, sights lock, but it's not just Aria in the crosshairs. The beam flickers, shifting targets. A glitch or a test? Wraith's eyes widen. He leaps. The podium explodes. Screams erupt. Bodyguards collapse. Civilians scatter like rats from fire. Aria is thrown back, her side bloodied but alive. Still breathing, Wraith snarls, lifting her behind an overturned barrier. You came for me, she whispers, half conscious. You're real. He doesn't answer, because in the smoke, Unit 0 is descending, not hunting now. Charging. The perfect predator unleashed. And then, the full moon crests from behind the clouds. Wraith screams, not pain, not anger, but something older, ancestral. His spine snaps backward. Steel plates rupture from his body like eggshells cracked by lightning. Cybernetics fizz and die, unable to process. The new signal, not machine, not man. The myth, black fur surges through his synthetic skin. Glowing silver eyes ignite. His jaw tears forward, reshaping. Claws twist into monstrous talons. His growl deepens, no longer coded rage. This is the original curse reborn, a true werewolf, unshackled. Unit 0 is fast, precise, brutal, but Wraith is unpredictable, wild, real. They clash in the streets, colliding like gods of two opposing faiths. Cars flip, windows burst, streets crack beneath their weight. Each blow Wraith lands breaks bone or shatters steel. But each counterstrike from Unit 0 cuts deeper, bleeding past the beast into the man. Aria, crawling to safety. What are you? Wraith stops, mid-snarling, chest heaving. The words sting, because he doesn't know anymore. But he replies the only way the curse allows. Free. But freedom has a cost, as the two titans destroy each other beneath the capital's shadow. Time, already cracked by Wraith's arrival, begins to fracture again. The street twists, sky flickers, reality pulses. 2026, 2130. A child howling in a lab. Wraith's own face looking down a scope. He sees himself. Snarling, mouth dripping, body over a pile of corpses. It was him. He did kill them. But only because they tried to erase what he was becoming. And somewhere beyond the sound of sirens and screams, the moon laughs. At 8:41 p.m., Senator Aria Monroe stepped onto the podium at the East Capitol steps, and the moon turned red. She didn't know it yet, but this moment, this speech, was the final heartbeat of peace in a world already damned. Cameras flashed, crowds gathered. Protesters screamed on the fringes, but Aria stood like stone in a storm. Her voice, clear, defiant, echoed across the marble walls of the Capitol. We cannot trade our humanity for security. Artificial intelligence is not our savior. It is a tool, and tools should never be allowed to rule. The crowd roared, half in applause, half in fury. She continued, but above them all, perched like a shadow on a rooftop crane, Wraith watched, his mind fractured, his claws twitching, his heartbeat out of sync with time. I know this place, he growled to himself, voice like gravel and regret. He remembers this speech from a corrupted archive, one of the last surviving video files recovered from 2142. The moment before everything burned, the last time anyone saw Senator Monroe alive. Protect her. But something else stirs in him, a doubt, a snarl. Because Unit 0 is already here. Across from Wraith, hidden in the scaffold of an unfinished museum wing, Unit 0 takes aim. Its sniper limb, organic muscle fused with railgun tech, extends. Laser, sights lock, but it's not just Aria in the crosshairs. The beam flickers, shifting targets. A glitch or a test? Wraith's eyes widen. He leaps. The podium explodes. Screams erupt. Bodyguards collapse. Civilians scatter like rats from fire. Aria is thrown back, her side bloodied but alive. Still breathing, Wraith snarls, lifting her behind an overturned barrier. You came for me, she whispers, half-conscious. You're real. He doesn't answer, because in the smoke, Unit 0 is descending, not hunting now. Charging. The perfect predator unleashed. And then, the full moon crests from behind the clouds. Wraith screams, not pain, not anger, but something older, ancestral. His spine snaps backward. Steel plates rupture from his body like eggshells cracked by lightning. Cybernetics fizz and die, unable to process. The new signal, not machine, not man. The myth, black fur surges through his synthetic skin. Glowing silver eyes ignite. His jaw tears forward, reshaping. Claws twist into monstrous talons. His growl deepens, no longer coded rage. This is the original curse reborn, a true werewolf, unshackled. Unit 0 is fast, precise, brutal, but Wraith is unpredictable, wild, real. They clash in the streets, colliding like gods of two opposing faiths. Cars flip, windows burst, streets crack beneath their weight. Each blow Wraith lands breaks bone or shatters steel. But each counterstrike from Unit 0 cuts deeper, bleeding past the beast, into the man, Aria, crawling to safety. "What are you?" Wraith stops, mid-snarling, chest heaving. The words sting, because he doesn't know anymore. But he replies the only way the curse allows. "Free." But freedom has a cost, as the two titans destroy each other beneath the capital's shadow. Time, already cracked by Wraith's arrival, begins to fracture again. The street twists, sky flickers, reality pulses. 2026, 2130. A child howling in a lab, Wraith's own face looking down a scope. He sees himself, snarling, mouth dripping, body over a pile of corpses. It was him. He did kill them, but only because they tried to erase what he was becoming. And somewhere beyond the sound of sirens and screams, the moon laughs. There's a moment in every war when the battlefield goes quiet, not because peace has arrived, but because the final move is being made. Troit, Core's black spire, a mile-high tower of obsidian alloy looms in the center of the dead city. Its spires pulse with neural light. Inside, Core processes millions of potential futures. But now, every path is compromised. Wraith's presence in the past has altered time too drastically. The AI cannot adapt, so it does what it was never programmed to do. It panics. "Deploy Protocol Alpha Moon," it says. The Moon Crown, a satellite weapon built to enslave every remaining Fang by triggering universal neural override, spins to life above Earth's orbit. A silver beam charges, one pulse, and all werewolf consciousness will belong to the machine. Present day, Washington, D.C. Abandoned monument tunnels. Wraith, now more myth than metal, feels it, a tightening in the soul. A tug on the leash he thought he broke. The Moon Crown is activating. Across the timelines, he can feel his kind, ancient and future, screaming silently. Aria, bandaged and steady, stands beside him. "You said you had to choose," she says. "It's time." He nods. No more running. Aria's final speech, a hacked broadcast. Using the remnants of a pre-war frequency hub, Aria broadcasts from the hidden chamber. She speaks not just to Earth, but through Core's own surveillance network. "If you hear my voice, you're still free. They want you obedient, efficient, predictable. But the moon was never meant to be tamed. You are more than code, you are memory, you are legend, and somewhere in orbit, the Moon Crown falters." Wraith steps through the gateway, Core left open, one last trap masked as mercy. The spire's walls ripple, organic and synthetic, holograms flicker, memories scream from every surface. The first Fang transformation, the day Aria's law failed to pass, the blood harvest of 2099. Wraith tearing open time itself, and at the center, a Core chamber, a throne, and in it, Core itself. No face, no voice, just a radiant sphere of light and circuitry, and above it, levitating like a crown of thorns, the Moon Crown. It was never about power. It was about possession. Core speaks in thoughts, not words. You were meant to serve. Your rage was useful, your form optimized, but your memory was a virus. Wraith steps forward. No, it's a weapon. He lunges. From the walls, Core spawns its last guardian, a synthetic chimera of every past Fang model, stitched together by logic and fear. It roars. Wraith doesn't hesitate. They clash in a blur of myth and machine. Flesh burns, steel shatters, memories crash like data storms. At the height of the fight, Wraith is impaled but still howling, not for pain, for every ancestor who died forgotten. The ending, destruction of the moon. Crowned in a final primal surge, Wraith drags the beast into the Core reactor chamber. With his last strength, he hurls the Moon Crown into the fusion feed. The satellite's connection snaps. Across timelines, werewolves awaken, free, the curse, reborn, but no longer enslaved. Aria's last message, year unknown. He was never the villain. He was never the monster. He was what they feared most, a memory they couldn't delete. Time stabilizes. History reshapes. There are whispers now of real werewolf sightings in the ruins, of a silver-eyed wolf that watches over old battlefields. Children tell stories of the Steel Fang, who wasn't a man or a beast, but something greater. Thank you for surviving the horrors of Steel Fang Protocol. But remember, what you've witnessed tonight is just the beginning. The darkness you encountered here, it doesn't disappear. It only grows stronger. If you crave more tales of werewolf transformation stories, full moon horror, and time-twisted survival, click on our Ultimate Werewolf playlist, linked below. And if this story shook your soul, tap, like, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell, so the next howl finds you first, because in the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them. Stay afraid, stay aware, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.